right, welcome back to Relatively Conscious. My name is Thomas Brown.
Irvin Bryant
Shout out to DJ for making our beat
at DW Made That on social media,
and follow us on social media.
at Kinda Woke on Instagram and Twitter, Relatively Conscious everywhere else.
All right, question of the day: is bipartisanship dead? Is this like Nas on a tombstone? Hip hop is dead. Is bipartisanship dead? Is no longer around anymore? All right. So first thing, the Republicans. So today, the House is going to pass a bill to create a commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection. Yes. And anyway, they tried to do this beforehand in the Senate. The Senate tried to pass a bill. Republicans filibuster it. It was going to be a even bipartisan commission, half Republicans, half Democrats, subpoena power, everything. Kind of like the Warren Commission after JFK got shot, the 9/11 Commission, the hundreds of Benghazi commissions that happened. Not hundreds, but it was ridiculous.
Yes, he has a lot.
Yeah, and they're mad about that, and so they filibuster it. Now we go to the House where Democrats have complete control, and the Democrats going to pass another one. It has more Democrats, less Republicans, and now Republicans are going against it because it's a partisan commission. You could have had a bipartisan one, but they didn't want that. And now they're like, we don't want this one because it's partisan. It's going to be too many Democrats on there and not enough Republicans. And it's going to be basically a witch hunt, which doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, we have the Republicans filibustered the voting rights bill that came up in the Senate. It's pretty simple voting rights bill. They argue against it that it makes elections federal. It stops the states from choosing what they want to do. All it does is say you can't do voter ID laws. You can't overturn an election, but they're like, no, states should have the ability to, cause a crisis, electoral constitutional crisis. But then we have a bright spot. And so Joe Biden just made a deal in the Senate to have a bipartisan infrastructure bill, a lot smaller than what he wanted at first, but it's a deal between the two. And then the question becomes, this is a 538 article that's pretty good about how much do Americans really care about bipartisanship. CNN did a poll earlier this year, and it basically says that 87% of Americans favor bipartisanship. 87%, right? A very high number. And so the question becomes, are Americans lying? If you look at elections and election results, like Ted Cruz or Tim Cotton, all of them, and a lot of Democrats too, they get to Congress because they said, well, I'm going to stand my ground. And I'm not going to work with the other side because that's what we should be doing. But then Americans say they want bipartisanship. So are voters stupid? Are they lying? What is it?
Voters are diverse, obviously.
But 87% seems to be like the vast majority.
This is true. What did 87% say?
87% said they want bipartisanship to happen in Congress.
So this, poll, I don't know the details of how it was conducted. The questions, I'm sure it was not a single question, but and it may not. It probably didn't ask this, but I think what's important to ask is, do they want bipartisanship for its own sake? Why can't we be friends? Let's all get along, kumbaya. Yeah. Or do they want laws to be passed? Right? Do they want anybody to do anything for anyone? Just like government, please work because we're paying the taxes and y'all don't do anything. And so the only way that, of course, if the party schism is what's stopping everything from moving, that's the gridlock, then I want bipartisanship. But if it was anything else, I want that to be solved in its own way because you guys need to do something. I don't know. I doubt if voters want bipartisanship for its own sake. And it's also interesting to hear that because I don't think voters are being dishonest, but legislators are. We know that. Government officials is kind of a given that there's a level of dishonesty with politicians. So they'll say, oh, the other side isn't being bipartisan. They don't want to work with us. And so the rhetoric, the discourse is constantly filled with that word, bipartisanship, regardless of whether or not, Matt Gaetz wants it. Yeah. Right? He's like, oh, they're not willing to cooperate. They're not willing to be bipartisan. He doesn't want that. Ted Cruz doesn't want that. But, it's the word of the day. And like I said, voters do want it. Obviously, the stats say that. And I believe that's a genuine desire because we want things to work. But because that's what they know we want, they just going to dangle it.
Yeah, it's very weird to me because Ted Cruz got elected because he said, "I am not going to help Obama."
He said
But like,
David Dewhurst voted with Obama twice. You
um,
can't re-elect that man. You have to elect me instead. I've never voted for Obama and I never will.
and the problem becomes though that they say like during the time the Tea Party was taking over.
Oh, yes, yes. This peak Tea Party movement.
I mean, you can find polls from back then that still have the same high 90%. We want bipartisanship. And I bet if you poll Texas, they'll say the same thing. Texas will say, "Yeah, I want bipartisanship," but they also like voted for Ted Cruz twice. After seeing him go to Congress, he said I wasn't going to do it. He
Right.
went to the Senate and didn't do it.
And red, green eggs, and ham on the Senate floor.
Yeah, and then they were still like, "Yeah, we'll go back up there and do that again." So I'm really confused. I feel like people, people are lying though, because like I don't know if you ask people are they good drivers, do you use your signal?
Right.
People would say yes. And then when it gets time to drive and they don't use a signal, I drive with 45, you drive with 45.
Yes,
People don't use a signal. So
no, I don't.
I don't know. I think it's what's looking for grandstanding, signaling. I'm a good person.
Virtue signaling. That's what they like to call it. Virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. And so I don't know. It seems like it's like if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, do you want bipartisanship?" Yeah, sure. Do you want to use your signal? Of course, of course. But then when you get into that situation, you don't do it because I want to get over time now, and I'm not going to put my signal on because you're going to speed up. I don't want bipartisanship because I don't want these bills that they're going to pass, socialist healthcare, And so I feel like it's something it's easy to say yes to, but then when it gets down to nitty gritty, it's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, but actually doing it requires me to yield, and I'm not gonna do. It's like religion, salvation. Oh, what heaven, paradise? This is great, peace and in my spirit and soul. Oh, that sounds excellent. Well, you want me to give to people to be charitable? Oh no, I'm not gonna do
that. Yeah. All right. Second question. Is this because of the internet, or is that a nice technophobia cop out that I can say, well, it's because of the internet instead of me actually like diving into the details and discussing this?
I think that it's not because of the internet. That's it's too easy.
Yeah.
Because it begins in the 2000s or maybe even before in the 90s,
Yeah.
So, none of the internet isn't a political force. It exists, but it doesn't have any, as far as I can tell, any bearing on how people are voting in mass. So that is too easy, but you can see the evidence on the internet. It's kind of like, but it's basically, when you see the symptoms, and it's like, oh yes, the coughing and the sneezing and the vomiting, that's not the problem. You have the flu, but the coughing and the sneezing, let's put some medication on that. The internet is definitely a piece of it.
Yeah,
but it's a much larger problem.
Well, see, because the reason I say it's a cop out is because as I was thinking about it, nobody created the internet. Like it's like I mean, people created the internet, but like nobody can really point to. This is not Gumball. I can't go find the internet, right? And so if I blame the internet, that's not a person I have to actually go and blame. It's not somebody I can actually go and touch.
It's too easy.
Yeah. It's what is if I say it's because of the internet, it's not going anywhere. So it's just gonna stick around.
So okay, so it is gonna stick around. That's gonna happen. But the person taking the blame is Google. It's Twitter. It's Facebook. So they are blaming people and they're blaming the tech giants, CEOs, directors, developers who are responsible for the websites. And of course, their task is nigh impossible. I mean, some of them can do a better job, but also it's ridiculous. So it is a very convenient thing to blame. Of course, they don't even fully understand the problem. So yeah, it's definitely partly a cop out to blame the internet. But Facebook, I mean, that's where it occurred. Facebook and 8chan and Reddit, the what I don't know, r/incels, r/insurrection. I don't know. Neckbeards, yeah.
r/Donald Trump. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lie. It's just not the whole thing. Like coughing and sneezing in the flu,
Yeah, because because recently somebody was getting mad about what happened with the going to stock market. Basically, stock market's acting weird because of
Wall Street bets. Yes,
and they're like it's because of the internet, and it's like no, because back in 2008 y'all crashed the entire thing, and then people really realize y'all know what y'all doing. And so, well, let me get into the mix. I got a little bit of money in my pocket. I can, if it's enough of us doing stuff, we can start messing things up. And y'all love Wall Street guys love writing books about how to like conquer Wall Street. And y'all probably should stop doing that because people are reading.
Anybody can read a book.
Yeah, they're like, well, that's kind of easy. Yeah, okay,
I can do that. And that's why I said, like, when the problem starts in the year 2000, with voting snafu, or in the 90s with the Clinton affair. The world has changed as of late, so it's not. I don't think there's anybody to blame, and the internet has become a huge part of everybody's life. So that's where it takes place. But it's not wrong to assume that this is a very contemporary problem. It's just that the internet is, which is insane to say out loud, the internet is contemporary life. So it's like, oh yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, wild. I don't know.
Yeah. So if a Democrat or a progressive listener to talk about this conversation, by now we're at almost 15 minutes. They're screaming Fox News, but it feels like we're giving Fox News too much credit because when we look at the ratings, Fox News is not bringing that many people like worldwide, or even the United States. Their ratings are high, as in like the people who actually watch TV still, but it's not as high as like people who watch an NFL game or people who watch the basketball game.
It doesn't take a lot to sink a ship. It doesn't take a lot of screw ups to derail a train. It doesn't take a lot of screw ups to start a fire, a forest fire, a wildfire like California. It doesn't take a lot. It only takes a few screw ups and evidence. Tea Party movement, a genuine minority. The temperance movement, a genuine, like, that's crazy. America did not want to give up booze. And we proved it. Like, we were like, no, I'm not going to stop doing this. And like changed it pretty quickly, for our timing.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do it, but it was a passionate few. And you can really sink the ship.
But see, I was about to say, the reason why I kind of think maybe we do get Fox News credit is because Robert Ailes and his ilk was not supposed to give the Republican Party to Donald Trump. That was a joke. They were more focused on everybody else. The second debate, I think it's the second debate they have on Fox News, Megyn Kelly comes out swinging at Donald Trump and does a good job. For standards of somebody come out swinging against somebody else, she does her job well. Then he tweets out, I guess something's wrong. I guess she was like, bleeding or something. Yeah. And she became the story, and so the movie Bombshell kind of discussed this, but her own book discusses too. But basically, Robert Ailes sees that like not only did Donald Trump turn on her, but like all of Twitter and all these people who are watching Fox News are now mad at Fox News about the fact they're not giving Donald Trump enough credit. And OAN only pops up, and then OAN is actual what's the word?
Factor.
Actual factor, but actually like maybe replacement for Fox News that Donald Trump continues to say, which Fox is giving very good coverage, but OAN does, or the Great American News Network, all these other things that do, right? And so it looks like Fox News doesn't have the same footing, and it's more about the people and not the institution itself, because people turn on the institution.
Okay, check me out though. Fox News, of course, was not always exactly what it is now, or what it has been in the past decade. There always has been, always will be, just like as there is an OAN and there's another one. So there's Newsmax, OAN, Breitbart, Fox, and others, and more.
Yeah,
and you can get all kind of different variations on the formula. So that will exist, but this is why I say, our lives have changed so drastically. Yeah, because the dingbat. Crazy person news.
Yeah,
you could always get the newspaper. That has already, the Know Nothing Party had a news, and then I would go talk to my people. Nazis had a newspaper. Like, they're always going to have their audience. Everybody has an audience. Yeah. When you have freedom of press, anybody can talk to their people. But I got that mass cable, like straight to the vein. Yeah. And in a regular, especially like in the 90s, like regular cable package, there's only room for one. Yeah, you're not gonna have no, multiplicity. Fox News, bam. I got Newt Gingrich on, straight to the vein. I've got crazy coming in, and their ability to corner that market, to build up and understand a certain ideology that is impenetrable, because that's what, how you guarantee the eyes, you guarantee the money, buy-in, whatever. That sets, and Carlos Maza breaks it down, multiple times on his Vox show and now on his independent media. That sets Donald Trump up to do it better, or to turn the dial up where they're not willing to. Because did they rest in their laurels? I don't know. I'm no expert, but you get to a point where, Roger Ailes and company say, maybe that's too far. I don't want to quite do that. Oh, Breitbart's got you covered. I'll do it. Newsmax will do it. OAN will do it. Yeah. So, none of this can be blamed on a single party. Our lives just changed in so many ways, especially the whole progress thing, which if you really want to get down to it, that's what you can blame. And I'm not saying that we should not progress. I'm just saying when you do it, this is the response you get. Yeah. People freak out. And so they find Fox News and they find Breitbart and OAN to give them sanctuary. And unfortunately, OAN, Breitbart, etc., far right news is incentivized to turn the crazy up. Yeah. And then we get January 6th.
Next to last question. Is this because we're losing recipes?
Oh my God, this is what's wrong with today. The young ladies today, they're not learning from mom how to cook. We're losing recipes. And now...
What's that, Michael Irving?
Yeah, is this because we're losing recipes? This because, kids are being brought up, the concepts that kids are being brought up in the world where they don't have the same conviction to voting and getting things done in a way where it's not partisan. Because like the previous generation in Congress, Democrats and Republicans were friends. Newt Gingrich came in, belly flopped into that thing and really switched it up. But as it becomes more crazy, we're talking about Facebook, we're talking about Twitter. These are places where young people are. So is this because we're losing recipes?
You're saying the legislators are losing recipes.
Yeah.
I think they're not losing them. They rejected them. The recipe was handed down, and then there was like, wait a second, but I can just microwave, hot pocket. Yeah. I don't have to do all that. You want me to read bills and consider and talk to my constituents and weigh and strategize and make a friend over here, make a friend over there, shake hand. I don't want to do any of that. Red and blue, yes and no. It's already done. I go back to my constituents, tell them I did exactly that, get reelected, and then, golf course time. It's too easy. Time.
Because the Republicans, one of the problems they have is that, I think it's a problem. Maybe they don't think it is. They have term limits on how long you can be in leadership. And so that's why Paul Ryan stepped down, because after a while, he was not going to be in leadership. He was just going to be a regular, House member. The old head of the Republican House caucus. Yes. He left also to work with tobacco because, his time was done in leadership. And so we keep getting younger and younger people. Now it's Mike McCarthy, but very soon he will have to leave. And could it be Matt Gaetz if he doesn't go to prison? Could it be Marjorie Taylor Greene? Liz Cheney herself will have to step down she already got kicked out of leadership, but she would have stepped down in a couple of years. So the question becomes, are we losing recipes because they're changing up leadership so fast? And in the Democratic Party, we go from Nancy Pelosi been there for forever. Before that was Harry Reid. Chuck Schumer's been there for ages. But now we're getting younger and younger people, and we're really switching over the leadership quickly.
That is true. That the older, but see, in the Republican Party, that's not true. The older members aren't necessarily like more centrist,
Yeah.
So that's true with Democrats. So the young people are now, and many would say in response to Republicans, doing the far left, less compromising thing.
Yeah.
That's a young person. That's AOC in the squad and their ilk. But on the right, regardless the newer members, and that's not necessarily youth, right? So it's how long they've been there, seniority. The newer members are more likely to be in this post-Trump far right ideology. But altogether, everybody, not everybody, but regardless, and even spread across levels of seniority, is the rejection of bipartisanship. So I don't know if it's, like I said, I don't think we lost the recipes like they've been lost to time, generations, cultural change, whatever. Kind of like the Southern plan, Southern switch, after the Civil Rights Bill, or Civil Rights Act, rather. It's not necessarily a change like others where, time is eroded. No. I saw the writing on the wall. and it's time for me to change up the game.
Yeah, a lot of the older, more centrist Republicans retired. They went out to pasture. George Bush is not even. He's not even involved in politics anymore. He's painting now.
Well, presidents, I mean, they're gone. Barack is barely around too.
But Barack still is a leading voice on what we do legislation wise. And so, but that is not what happened to ex-Republican presidents. They leave altogether. And Mitch McConnell is still around. But
yeah, I was about to say that.
Many of his friends he came in with all retired years ago once he started getting crazy. But this is where he comes to play. He was waiting for it to become like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people he used to argue with either retired or died, like John McCain in Arizona. They used to battle over the time by bipartisanship, and he thought John was down for trying to do that. And unfortunately, John died to cancer, and Mitch McConnell is still around, still being the leader of the Republican caucus in the Senate. So I do think is a switch up, like you said. But those who are older and still around, they were waiting for this to come. They're waiting for this to happen. Basically, this is what they were always dreaming of. I would say, because the other ones they retired. Right now, two Republican senators are poised to retire, and they retire basically because they couldn't deal with Donald Trump anymore. They got tired of being asked questions in the hallways in Congress and having to say, "I didn't see that tweet," because they did. They were disturbed by it, and they didn't want to deal with it anymore. And instead of going about trying to get reelected and how to deal with this big lie, I'm retired, man. I'm rich. I'm going home. I'm going to the ranch. Last question: is this because Obama became president? Did we go? Yeah. Did we go too fast? Did we really go from 72 being the first time Black people can vote all together in elections, North and South, to Obama being president? That is my father's lifetime, less than 50 years. Yeah, so we went from to be, historically a slave class finally getting full voting rights in the country to one of them now being in charge of the free world. Yeah, was that too fast for people?
See, I don't think that's it though, because that definitely turned the dial up, that turned the speed up.
Yeah,
of reactionary politics. That makes it too easy to manipulate my base. He's a secret Muslim. He's not born here. That makes that too easy, and people already actually feel within themselves compelled to freak out.
Yeah,
but it began before that. Back when it was an all-white guy party. I mean, not like partisan, but like it's a party. Streamers and everything. White guys are toasting champagne. Bill Clinton. It already had began. Newt Gingrich was ready to shed blood.
Yeah.
Ken Starr, I'm ready to shed blood. I don't care. Bipartisanship, none of that. It's about power. And it's less of, like I said, I think progress. This is the natural consequence of progress, because social progress altogether before, Black president did change rapidly.
Yeah.
Like we went the 70s is terrifying, if I'm a conservative white person, because you got backlash against the military. A lot of people are actually making money and voting now. This first generation of Black, like full citizens. And so it starts rolling right there.
Yeah, we go from Sidney Poitier being a C-list movie star. Like he gets in movies, but he can never be top bill. He shares one kiss and people freak out. To Denzel Washington and Will Smith being maybe the top 5 movie stars in the late 90s.
This actually is the first time. Nobody. I've never heard anybody talk about this. Where Black people start doing, Black is beautiful afros and all this.
Yeah,
and we've always set trends culturally. This is the first time white people are actually imitating the way we look.
Yeah,
like white people get perms to get afros. That's insane.
Yeah,
they're like, I want to have big, hair up, standing up. I want my hair to stand up like Black people's. Disco. We can't quite do Soul Train, but let's do the disco thing. That's insane. Like that's never occurred. Sure, copying the music, Elvis, but Elvis is blue eyes.
Yeah,
I know that's Sinatra, but still, he's got blue eyes.
Yeah.
He's got blue eyes. He's got the hair. No one's trying to be Black for real.
Yeah, we actually copied him. We put lie in our hair.
Right. Yeah, because that's the power dynamic. But we are full citizens. We're getting money. You know, we're coming out of being at least structurally like for real second class. And that's too much, man. It's time to crank up the crazy dial.
Interesting how we got to this point where bipartisanship, I don't, is it dead? I don't know. I would wish that January 6th when people like really stop and think about what's going on. But obviously it did not. But then again, it's very possible, and I think this could happen, where if Donald Trump runs again in 2024 and loses, right, and the Republican Party has to have a serious conversation about what happened, maybe they finally break off. I think maybe the problem is bipartisanship is not dead. The tent is too big. The Democratic Party tent and Republican Party tent has just gotten too big. And so the right and left wing of both parties keeps pulling them to the side because keeps pulling them back. But if you have 4 parties, then both of those wings can do whatever they want to do, and the middle can do what they want to do.
And what's crazy as we close is that's a real forecast that we've been talking about for a while, because the parties, different factions are to the degree that they can be their own party. They have their own values. But even more in that direction, we as a people have been talking about, at least politically involved people, ranked choice and things like that, because the bipartisan thing is what's forcing us into 2 parties, and you get weird candidates that nobody likes. Moreover, they trying it in New York. So this is not like, once you have, because we still do Democrat versus Republican because that's what's the viability option. Like, I need to have my one guy. I sure would like Bernie Sanders, but I gotta settle for Joe. Okay. But with ranked choice, you don't got to do that. Bernie Sanders can say, finally, I got to stop acting. I can stop acting like I like y'all. And it's Democratic Socialist Party and Donald Trump Party. Boom. I don't got to play the game anymore.
Yeah. And then we see what goes from there. My only fear is that, like, Europe is not any better. They have, parliamentary systems. But, I mean, Israel definitely had a crazy man as their prime minister for 12 years. So we'll see what happens in the future. My name is Tony Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Peace.
Do it to him,